to add as many seats as they possibly can, all in an effort to answer the clarion call set forth by Trump. So this is the whole ballgame right here, what's happening in California. But our job, knowing that we now have the great fortune of being able to vote on this thing on November 4th, is to let everybody in the state know what's happening, know what's at stake. And that starts with raising as much money as we can, grassroots donations, even if it's $1, $5, $10, whatever you can afford, so that we can get in front of as many Californians as possible. That means get on their TV screens, get on their computer screens, get on their phone screens, and get in their mailboxes. But it costs money to do so. And so very grateful for the people who are watching right now, the people who are tuned into politics. But now comes the point where we have to all pitch in so that we can reach the people who aren't paying attention, who may not be focused on politics on a daily basis. And while that sounds great for their mental health, the reality is that we need everybody's buy-in here in pushing this effort forward. So if you haven't yet donated, please go to yeson50live.com and give whatever you can. Okay, very excited to introduce our next two. We have Olivia Juliana. I first learned of Olivia when Matt Gaetz tried to mock her online, and she used his mockery to raise over $2 million for abortion rights. So what a badass move, and he's out of Congress, and so you got the last laugh. Juliana is a political activist, abortion rights advocate, and a strategist from Texas, so knows firsthand about all the bullshit that's going on right now. She was formerly the director of politics and government affairs at Gen Z for Change, and she's a dear friend of mine. Very happy to have you. And of course, a congresswoman who needs no introduction. Very excited to be introducing Representative Jasmine Crockett. She is one of my favorite people in elected office. She is a badass, a fighter, an attorney, one of the most dynamic and interesting and engaging voices that we have on the left. Could not be more excited to listen to your conversation here.
Thank you, Brian. Well, Congresswoman Crockett, it sure seems like everyone's got something to say about our home, now don't they?
Yeah, for good reason, though. It is a hot ass mess. But I am so thankful for California, and not only for the leadership, real leadership that we need in this moment, but also for the people. You know, this is something that is going to be people-led, people-driven, and ultimately the people will decide. And with everything that I've seen about the pushback that we are delivering to this regime that is currently in power, I am believing that the people of California are woke enough to know that it is time to fight fire with fire. And what that means, for those in the back that don't understand my language, what that means is that if Texas is going to redistrict and gerrymander and also silence the voices of Black and brown communities, that California will also make sure that they give more voice to their constituents in the form of Prop 50. And so this is just in response to make sure that those bad policies that they are currently signing up for, that they actually have some accountability, because that's what democracy looks like. The final thing that I'll say, so that you can go on with your question, is that today was very interesting. It's always interesting on the Hill, or a hot ass mess, either way you want to look at it. But nevertheless, so we're there and we were voting on a rule for a bill. And I was like, what's taking so long? Because I was ready to go debate the next thing. I just knew it was going to pass. They were going to vote it. But it wasn't. It wasn't passing. And in fact, this rule was going down, and there were like 6 Republicans that voted with the Democrats. So I was like, well, who are the 6 Republicans? Well, of the 6, I think 3 or 4 were out of California. So we can see that even the threat of actually holding them accountable has made them start to shift how they're voting. In fact, they were able to get enough to switch over so that they could go ahead and pass the rule. But one of the loudest kind of upset people, Kevin Kiley, he did not change his vote because he plans to run. He knows it's going to be an uphill battle. And now he believes that he should be held accountable for how he votes. But my question is, bro, where have you been? Mm-hmm. You should have been voting in the interest of your constituents anyway. So I'll just leave it there. Right now, even without this thing going to the ballot, they are having an impact.
Well, I'll say this, behind me, I have portraits of Ann Richards and Barbara Jordan. And if you're watching and you don't know who they are, look them up. And it's because of women like this and women like you. I'm glad that you're on my side, because I was at the public redistricting hearings that were held here in Texas about these maps. I was at the one at the state capitol and I was at the one in Houston. And so I sat through 10 hours of public testimony from Texans all over this state who sat there and begged for our Republican lawmakers to have a conscience and to do the right thing. And they sat there, and I'll be honest with y'all, they didn't care. They didn't care. They had made their minds up before they walked into that room. And I think that you are the most uniquely positioned person in the country to really give people insight into what the Texas legislature looks like, what Congress looks like, and what this means for the rest of the country. Because not only are you a member of Congress from Texas, you had your district redistricted, but you were also a member of the Texas legislature. So what is the big picture here that people may not be understanding, and why is Texas so important in this conversation?
Yeah, that's a very good point. First of all, my favorite organization is the Heritage Foundation. and usually I feel like Texas becomes the crash dummy for every single bad type of legislation that they want to try out throughout the South. And so this is no different, right? As it's already been laid out by my colleagues, that they started in Texas, but they were definitely never planning to end in Texas. And if anybody believes that there's something that California did that made them say, well, now we've got to do more, no. This was always their plan. The plan was to start in Texas, but then it was to move on to Missouri. It was to move on to Indiana. They even were trying to go after Clyburn in South Carolina. They're planning to go after Florida. They are trying to do this any and everywhere that they think they can get away with it. And so they wanted to test it out in Texas. That's number one. Number two, we literally have people that are elected to office that are supposed to represent the interests of the people that put them into office. And as we both sat through hearings, because I attended more than one hearing myself, it was interesting to have Representative Vasut, who was leading those field hearings and leading the redistricting, my classmate to the Texas House, pretend that he had no recollection of anything that took place in 2021. Now, listen, I've never professed to have the best memory, but I can remember like yesterday being on the floor, arguing with the Republicans, telling them that we had grown the state by 95% people of color. So the idea that we got 2 new seats because of the growth that Texas experienced, where we added over 4 million people over the last decade once we completed our census, and ultimately we got 2 new Anglo seats. That's that Republican math. That is that Republican math, right? These were Anglo majority seats that they ended up creating. And they're just like, yeah, okay, it worked out. We added 180,000 Anglos in a decade. Each congressional seat is 766,000 people. So you tell me, in fact, that is a microcosm of what they are doing right now. You tell me how 180,000 people end up with 2 seats where they are the majority and the seats are 766,000 people. That is what they are doing. They are not only doing Donald Trump's bidding, but it's at the expense of so many communities that have already been disenfranchised. Texas has over 4 million African Americans, more African Americans than any other state. We had 5 African Americans that had been elected to Congress. When Colin Allred ended up running for the Senate, he was replaced by a non-African American, which is perfectly fine. We then ended up down to 4 African Americans, okay? Now what they're saying is we're going to cut that into 2. You'll only have an opportunity to elect Al Green or whoever wins the 18th. And really what they're trying to do is set it up to where it's most likely me or Mark Vesey in the Dallas area. So you explain to me how on God's green earth, in a state in which Anglos were not growing at all, and we know that if we look at which group has the vast majority, not the vast majority, but has the plurality of representation, it's actually Latinos in the state of Texas. Latinos have the largest demographic in the entire state. Do they have the largest demographic of opportunities to elect people to Congress? Absolutely not. In fact, we are a majority minority state. We are 60-40. Yet somehow, after these maps were done, we're looking at having less minorities being able to choose their representation. So I want to say that this is bigger than my state, your state. This is about us as the United States and what it is that we are fighting for. There is only one side that is willing to stand up to this regime. There is only one side that is willing to conduct investigations. There is only one side that is willing to hold their incompetency and their feet to the fire. There's only one side. And so while people haven't started to feel the effects of being kicked off their health care, they're about to. While people may not have fully felt the effects of the increases in their utility bills, they're about to. While people already know that these tariffs are already hitting pretty hard, to the extent that they are shutting down our small businesses, and our farm bankruptcies are up 55 or 58%. Don't remember which one. Already, our farmers are filing for bankruptcy. Yo, like, we are in a crisis, and it is because the Republicans don't have a backbone. So it's time to make sure that we show them that the Democrats are ready to fight. So that means that California, we need you in this moment. We need your dollars, we need your time, and we absolutely need your vote.
Yeah, and I'll close this out with this. In a perfect world, we don't have to do mid-decade redistricting. In a perfect world, partisan gerrymandering is banned. But also in a perfect world, women aren't losing their ability to have children because they're going into sepsis. And children in Texas are having books banned in their schools. These are the things that would happen in a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. We live in reality. And so if you're not sure if you're voting on this for you in California and how this benefits you, well, it benefits a lot of people, and it benefits people like me, young people who live in Texas, where this is our reality every single day. And so you have a chance and an opportunity to not just set yourself up and your future for success, but for young people like me in this state of over 30 million people who just want the chance to build our own American dream.
Perfectly
I love
put.
it.
Thank you both. I appreciate you being on. Olivia, Representative Crockett, thank you both for being here. And just one more reminder, this is something that I've done over the last few years, is kind of beg and plead for Democrats to be able to fight. And we have an opportunity here where we actually do have Democrats who are fighting back in California. And other governors and other states are watching what happens right now. And if we want other states, other governors to be able to step up in this existential fight, not just for the Democratic Party, but for democracy, then the reality is that we need to make sure that this works. We need to make sure that there is an incentive structure for other people to say, hey, if we put our necks on the line too, we know that our base is going to show up. We know that donors are going to show up. We know that the grassroots are going to show up. And so this is our opportunity right here to literally put our money where our mouth is, show some support for the spine that we're seeing from these California Democrats. So if you haven't yet donated to this effort, please go to yeson50live.com. Give a few bucks. Every little bit helps. We are fast on our way to $400,000 in just a couple of hours here. This is we're definitely hoping to get as close as we can to $1 million tonight. So every bit helps. Thank you so much. Okay, very excited to introduce our next two guests. We have a dear friend of mine, Jack Cocciarella, who is a progressive political commentator, and I know he's laughing because I'm having a lot of trouble saying his last name. It's the first time I actually ever said his last name out loud. But in my
Nailed
defense,
it, Brian.
in my defense, you guys look at Cocchiarella and try to do that.
You
without
nailed
any
it.
help.
It just means you love me.
That's it. I do. He is everywhere online. I am so grateful for his voice in this independent media space. He is one of the people who gets it beyond everybody else. So Jack, thank you so much for the work that you're doing on a daily basis, helping make our independent media ecosystem stronger and stronger every single day. And now we have our first Gen Z member of Congress, Congressman Maxwell Frost. Congressman, my only hope is that the next generation of Democrats, which I hope we see start to happen in a big way in 2026, that they look a lot like you. So thank you for being fearless. Thank you for being outspoken. Thank you for being a leader, not just among folks in your generation, but in the party more broadly. So go ahead. I'll let you guys take it away from here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. You're an inspiration to us all. And maybe we're breaking a little bit of news here. I think I said this in our last interview, but I am with my member of Congress. So that makes me very excited. We know the facts of this case. We know the facts of what's happening right now with this administration. We are seeing a rise in a crisis of affordability. That's a fact. There's more law breaking under this administration than ever before. We know it's a fact that Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, they want to disenfranchise black and brown voters around the country. But I want to talk about feelings real quick. Congressman, how would you feel to make this guy right here very, very, very sad? How would that make you feel? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, I think it is really important. People know it make me feel amazing. And this is actually part of the reason we need to win the majority, because I promise you that one of the first people to receive a subpoena will be Stephen Miller.
Hell yeah.
This guy is one of the most evil people, not just in government, but in this country. And we need to hold him accountable as well.
And his suits, they don't fit at all. He looks terrible. I think it's because like the fabric is repelled by him. Like there's just got to be something about Stephen Miller. I also just looking at him. We don't need to trash him personally, but I think we can. I bet he just doesn't smell great either. But of course, Republicans aren't just focused on Texas. This fight has spread, or I guess it's not a fight. We're taking on the fight. What they're doing is a little bit different, but we certainly know that it wants to spread across the country. Ron DeSantis, certainly someone not new to falling in line with Donald Trump and getting embarrassed because of it. How are we going to make sure that this is a tone-setting moment in California, telling the rest of Republicans across the country, hey, if you, I don't want to say it, you fuck around, you find out?
Well, yeah, and for people who don't know, of course, they're moving forward with Texas. They're trying to figure out other places they can do this as well. They're moving forward with this in Florida as well. Mm-hmm. And we have pulled it across the entire state. Democrats, Republicans, independents come out when they're asked, are you in favor of the state of Florida redistricting to help Donald Trump get a majority? They say no every single time. And so part of what we're looking to do in our state is make sure that people understand what they're trying to do. And you brought up DeSantis. A lot of people don't know this. DeSantis and Trump hate each other. Donald Trump hates Ron DeSantis. And what Ron DeSantis is trying to do is he's about to not be the governor of Florida anymore next year. He's going to have 2 years where he's not an elected official, but he really wants to run for president. And he knows he can't win that Republican primary without Donald Trump's help. So he has turned into Donald Trump's lapdog that Donald Trump actually hates. And he wants to do everything he can to be in the news, to get a news cycle, to lick the boot of Donald Trump, to try to earn some of that support so he's not completely irrelevant. And that's why we've seen all these things from redistricting, even the Everglades detention facility, the internment camp, Alligator Alcatraz, all this stuff he's doing because the dude wants to run for president. He has no juice. Nobody likes him, even in his own party.
He does not have the sauce. Have you heard his voice? Have you seen his boots?
And so this is what's going on in the state of Florida. I want to make sure people know. Jasmine brought it up. I always tell these people, Project 2025, all this stuff everyone's seeing now, that's Florida 2020. Mm-hmm. Okay. This stuff that they're trying across this country, they've been doing in the South for a long time. They passed the big, beautiful bill for billionaires, the largest transfer of wealth from the working class to billionaires, the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, working class getting poorer as well. They know they can't win the election because people are pissed off about it. In fact, Donald Trump sent his top people to Capitol Hill to tell the Republican Party, hey, you got to stop calling it the Big Beautiful Bill Act because it's so unpopular. We got to rebrand it. Bro, you named it the Big Beautiful Bill Act. You have the word beautiful in there. The facts of the matter are so bad that people don't like it, even your own party. And now they're trying to figure out how to change it. It's so unpopular. They know they're going to lose. And so they want to cheat. They want to cheat because they don't want to lose. And that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, they're terrified. And they're also terrified because they know that we do have a bit of hope. And of course, the momentum is mounting. I want to talk about not just what we'll do when we do, in fact, win the House back, but the successes that you've already had. You brought up what Stephen Miller and all the rest of those goons like to call Alligator Alcatraz. Of course, you made a big move there that I want you to talk about, and maybe we keep it open or reopen it for Stephen Miller. I don't know, in a couple of years. But can you talk about how we're still winning right now and what that means for when we actually do have the House back?
Well, something that I always told organizers when I was on the front lines of Black Lives Matter, and that I think about a lot now as a member of Congress that doesn't have all the seats we want, is when you don't have all the power you want, you use all the power you got. And one of the most important things we can do right now as elected officials is use our powers of oversight, especially as it relates to this, what I would say is a campaign of terrorism on our communities, of going in and kidnapping people and human trafficking them to other countries and other states. And when this facility was open, not just myself, but many other representatives across the state of Florida pulled up and said, we want to go in to see what's going on. And we didn't just do that, we coordinated with a lot of the people engaged in lawsuits. And we were able to find out, what information do you need from the inside? What can we get? We went in there and we got it. I went a second time and spoke with people who were being detained there and got even more information. Many of us did declarations. Some of us served as witnesses in the federal case. And many of you saw that we got that place shut down. A judge came out about a week ago and reversed that. It's going to be back and forth in court. But as of right now, that facility is not operating because of the work of the organizations that filed the lawsuit, but because elected officials said, you know what? We have privilege, we're in positions of power. How can we use that to support organizers? How can we use it to support this lawsuit to shut the place down? DeSantis is opening up another one in North Florida. And guess what? I'll be pulling up to that one as well. We got to do everything we can in this moment with what we got. And I'm really proud of that, what we did with Alligator Alcatraz, because I think it shows what happens when elected officials work with organizers, work with the people on the ground. We're not going to win 100% of the time, but sometimes we will win. And it feels good to win. And like it's going to feel good on election day at the end of this year when California passes this.
Absolutely, it is. And if you want to make sure that that happens, go to yeson50, the number 50live.com, yeson50live. And I want this segment, Maxwell, you and I, to have raised the most. I don't know if that's Brian's going to tell me those numbers later, but I'm going to make the point of saying this is the person that you can really upset. That is our vice president. If you go and donate, I'm going to show it to you again. Jump scare right here.
Show it again.
But this
Everyone
is the
take
guy.
a look at that.
Take a look at that face.
Yeah.
Do
The
you want
higher
that
number
face
you
to
donate, the more you don't like him.
Exactly. I need y'all, and we'll do it one more time. This guy right here. Are
right
you serious?
there. Oh my God.
Please, yeson50live.com. Turn out and fight, people.
Awesome. Thank you both. I should note that worked because we just passed $400,000. So thank you for
Only
showing...
good thing Stephen Miller ever did is help us raise money. Thank
you for showing his ugly ass face. We appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who's donated. For those who haven't yet donated, this is the whole ballgame here. We've been begging for Democrats to fight. This is what it looks like for Democrats to fight. They've done their part. We've got this thing on the ballot on November 4th. Now it's just a matter of making sure that we can raise enough money, grassroots, so that people all across this state know what's on the ballot, know what the stakes are in this upcoming election. So if you haven't yet donated and you have a few bucks, donate here instead of going and getting a coffee somewhere. 5, 10, 15 bucks. It makes a huge difference. And you can add your own name to the throngs of people who've already donated. We are fast approaching $500,000 in just a couple of hours tonight. And if you really hate that guy, if you really hate Stephen Miller and JD Vance, then your way to show that right now is to go to yeson50live.com. All right, Jack and Congressman Frost, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, very excited to bring up our next two guests. We have a dear friend of mine, Elizabeth Booker Houston. She is a lawyer, a public health official, stand-up comedian, political commentator. She gained national attention for legal analysis, blending legal analysis with satire, and her viral rebuke of conservative pundit Ann Coulter at the Democratic National Convention. Anybody who can do that is A-OK in my book. EBH is a badass, and we are so lucky to have her voice as part of this movement on the left. And she's joined by the leader of the Democrats in the House, Hakeem Jeffries. Thank you